As artificial intelligence and machine learning are used more and more by the enterprise, government, and even SMBs, we will be confronted with a major challenge, and that is privacy. How far do we let machine learning, big data, and artificial intelligence invade and change our life? For Tech Republic and ZDNet, my name is Dan Patterson with contributor Jay Garman. Jay, privacy and AI are already a big deal. Where do we start? What's the groundwork for understanding the role AI will play in our private lives?
I think we're all going to start getting used to the word context, and frankly, a context we're not used to it. So we've all sort of fought the battle. You know, there's 2 billion of us on Facebook, fought the battle of not always understanding or configuring our Facebook privacy controls. And that's because Facebook makes money when we get us to share more things about ourselves. The issue is now we want, big players want us to share our data with deep learning algorithms. And we've talked a little bit about this in previous videos about the more you feed an AI system, the smarter it gets. That it's basically correlation and causation. So we want to get more and more data to correlate with more things, which means privacy, not sharing data points about ourselves, starves algorithms of their value. So the first point is privacy controls are going to have to get a lot more robust and understandable to help us stop algorithms from consuming data we don't intend. But that's not going to quite go far enough. So as an example, there have been proof of concept algorithms out there now using just facial recognition that are starting to look just at your face and guess at your income levels, your IQ levels, your sexual orientation, your propensity for criminality, and even your political views. So the idea of I can let you see my face because it's on my profile of any site out there, and someone could expose that to an algorithm to guess at how I'm going to vote or who I'm in love with, is something I don't think a lot of consumers are right now prepared for. And so we've got to start building out privacy models and a context model of you're allowed to see my data, but you're only allowed to do these things with it. It's something we had to get to because AI is going to demand it. You know, we're going to get self-driving cars soon. They're going to know everywhere we've been. But are they allowed to correlate that with algorithms that guess why we went those places, as an example?
Will we be able to profile companies and say their market size, how and where they spend money, and other competitive factors, as well as we will be able to profile humans and individuals?
Probably. It's going to be an interesting sort of arms race, I feel. So groups like the Sunshine Project or the Sunlight Project that sort of figure out where politicians get their funding from. Some algorithms are consuming that data today. It's going to be interesting to see how people start disguising the sources of their funding or disguising ways that they spend or research their money to try and thwart these algorithms. Everyone's always looking for a loophole. But it's really a question of how much data is available and what you can do with it. In the terms of non-persons, corporations or other entities, they don't necessarily have an expectation of privacy today in terms of if you publicly publish the data, it's on their Federal Trade Commission or SEC filings, it's fair game. So you can do whatever you want to with those algorithms. It gets more complicated when you start talking about people. So if I'm examining a company, am I allowed to run personality profiling algorithms on their executive board? Am I allowed to run personality profiling algorithms on the testimonials of their customers? So I know what companies they put in their marketing materials or what people they put in their marketing materials. Can I go profile them? It's going to get really complicated about not just what can an algorithm do, but what algorithms I allow you to expose my data to. So it's not just, I'm going to give you this data. I'm going to tell you what you can do with it. Today, our privacy models are, can you have this data or not? And can you share this data outside your company? Can you resell it? It's going to have to also get into, you can have this data, here's what you can do with it in very broad, easy to understand terms, and what you can do once it's outside your building. Because now we're getting into this world of Facebook and Microsoft might start trading user profiles to feed each other's respective algorithms.
Is there, or are there good policies on the book for dealing with AI already? And I think Also, are there good policies for going forward, or is there a good framework for developing and deploying policy around artificial intelligence?
So there's a privacy engineers manifesto, which is a good starting point, but it's not really required. What I expect is going to happen, this is what always happens when new technologies come about, is there's going to be some really terrible mistakes made in the first few days. I go back to like Facebook Beacon, where they're just going to fall on their face doing it wrong, and they're going to call out for it, and then they're going to make some pledges and start setting out some guidelines. Microsoft's already done some work around this. Satya Nadella's got rules for good AI and privacy's mentioned, and that was brought about because of the disaster of the Tay chatbot that quickly became a racist bigot after being trained on public conversation data. So the quality of data is a big deal in all of this as well. But I think we're going to have to get to some sort of brand seal of approval, the good housekeeping AI seal of privacy, like we've got for security certificates, is going to have to be a thing. And I'm not entirely certain government's up for this, because they tend to be pretty bad about regulating cutting edge technology in general. But I think we're going to have to come to a sort of a public consensus about what constitutes reasonable privacy, and get people to sort of put that badge of trust that they've been audited by some arbitrator in third policy. The one thing I do think is sort of a best practice that I think everyone should do, regardless of that, is everyone should have what we call a privacy ombudsman. So you're building this algorithm, you've trained it on data, and this ombudsman, like old school newspapers have, and some still do today, get to audit those algorithms and say, this is good or bad for the public. And they get to make the call that you can or can't do that. And there's a way for them to sort of arbitrate the grievances.
Jay, could access to AI eventually be considered an unfair competitive advantage?
Maybe. I think that's going to be really, really hard to do. It's not least because it's really hard to pin down exactly what you mean by the term AI. There's already a competitive advantage, and there always has been, in terms of access to data. AI is just really advanced software for doing more with that data and getting it better algorithms. I think what's more likely is it's going to be, how do I put this? You're going to have to be able to demonstrate the logic underpinning your algorithms, making them interrogatable. So if your algorithm shows that, for example, African Americans are a higher risk and therefore you shouldn't offer them the same level of credit, you're going to have to prove that it's not their race that the algorithm is making that basis on, that it's driven by other factors. Because it'd be really easy to bias an algorithm that way, depending on how you sample the data. So I think you're going to actually be able to have civil rights cases or fair trade cases against an algorithm by auditing whether or not it's acting in a biased or unfair fashion.
Jay Garman is a contributor to ZDNet and Tech Republic. Jay, I wonder if you could leave us with a forecast of the next, say, 18 to 36 months when it comes to policy, artificial intelligence, and privacy.
I think where this is going to gain the most ground in the next 18 to 36 months is in self-driving cars again. We've already seen some folks at Uber get busted for abusing how they could audit your transit data from what they can see. Self-driving cars are going to be very much about where you go and when, and can very easily deduce as to why. So I think, especially considering how much regulation is going to go on about those vehicles, that's where the first privacy fight's going to be. How much data do self-driving car manufacturers get to share, and what do they get to do with it?